Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Cott. Keith, we said yesterday there was going to be drama at Tynecastle, and it did not disappoint.
Listen, do you know what? In this season that we're having, it was. Look, I didn't know what really to expect. Having said that, I did say Hearts had won it 2-1. But I didn't know how they were going to get there. I didn't know how the game would look and feel. And the game itself, extraordinary. If you'd said to me at half-time how you fancy your prediction, I'd have said no chance. Because Rangers were so far in front. Rangers were doing everything right that Hearts weren't, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. I thought the first maybe 10 minutes was 50-50. Hearts were okay at that period. Then I thought after about 15 minutes, Rangers got so on top of Hearts in the middle of the pitch. You could hear the kind of nervousness start to creep into the stands. The volume started to go down a bit. And from that moment on, for the rest of that first half, Rangers were calm in possession. They were really aggressive in out of possession, winning the ball back. But when they won it back, they were really calm, composed, measured in the way they were moving the ball around. They obviously got the goal through Sterling. And I didn't anticipate the game I knew Derek McInnes would change it. That was obvious. I don't think anybody wouldn't have expected to change. Anyone maybe apart from Danny Rohl. It seemed to catch him a little bit by surprise. And kind of going back to what we were discussing last night, the Rangers fans, I'm sure, won't want to hear it. But I did pose the question, is Danny Rohl's lack of experience going to cost Rangers in this run-in? I think it probably did at the weekend. I think tonight didn't so much kill Rangers because that could have happened, going to Tynecastle and losing the game. The result that killed them was the Motherwell result. And again, Danny Rohl's, some of his decision-making, some of his selections, and his substitutions. Because Derek McInnes changed that for Hearts, made Hearts better. They were so much stronger. Changed a different system, 5 at the back. It gave them another body in the middle of the pitch. They were shutting down areas that Rangers were playing through in the first half. Derek McInnes totally changed that game. I think you've got to say as well the impact of Blair Spittle was terrific for Hearts. If you look at the first equaliser, it's Blair Spittle that moves the ball into was it Braga, and then he gets round the outside, and you can see him. He's busting a gut to make that run, which then allows Kazaridis, obviously, who gets the shot off the base of the post. You then get Tavernier standing, not doing much. But I actually think worse than Tavernier's reaction was Skov Olsen, who somebody would need to talk me through what the thought process was that he was in the Rangers starting 11 tonight. It never felt like a sort of game. He's never had a game in a Rangers shirt where he's grabbed it by the scruff of the neck or really contributed much. Absolute passenger, and he was caught sleeping when Stephen Kingsley got in for the goal. And after that, there was only going to be one winner of that football match. No surprise at all that it was Lawrence Shankland that got the finish.
What a finish!
Oh, it's a brilliant finish. But you can see he's such a clever striker, Dan. As the move's developing down the left-hand side, he's just taken up a perfect position. Nico Raskin, if you look at it, is at the centre of the 18-yard box, and he's having to cover Braga. So he can't get out, and Shankland's just taking up that position. And I think it's Big Manny Fernandez he's caught a rabbit in the headlights. He doesn't know what to do. When the danger was always going to be Lawrence Shankland. But instead of going tight with him, and try and stick, he kind of just stood back. Raskin then tries to shut it down, but before he can get there, Shankland did a lovely curved run just to get it on his left foot. It was only going to go one place. It was outstanding, just an outstanding bit of centre forward play for Shankland. And it, honestly, as good as Rangers were, and I thought they were pretty excellent in the first half, that was a result that Hearts deserved because of the way they managed to change it. The changes that Derek McInnes made from the sidelines, the changes that the players made on the pitch, I think they made the game a little bit simpler in the second half. And yeah, and you see what it meant to the supporters. I mean, they're walking out of that stadium on cloud nine tonight, because what was already really close is now basically within touching distance, isn't it? It's a miracle. It's a season of miracles.
We've got plenty of comments coming in, as you can see. I'm putting them up on the screen. If you want to get involved, please let us know your thoughts. We'll hopefully be joined by our colleagues from Tynecastle in the not too distant future. As I say, tons of comments, Keith. The first one I want to throw at you, a lot of people giving James Tavernier a lot of stick. You can see Marzuno there saying it was woeful from Hall of Fame Tav. Peter says the game tonight will be James Tavernier's legacy. I'm sorry, a terrible way to go out, and not closing his marker for the Shankland goal is criminal. Never a Rangers captain. Did you go along with that?
We spoke about James Tavernier, didn't we, previously? And I did say to you, unfortunately for James Tavernier, this is going to be his legacy. We were talking about it, weren't we, when he announced that this would be his last season. And I said it'll go either one or two ways. If Rangers blow it from this position, it'll be on him. And he'll just be the poster boy for season after season, captain disappointed. And unfortunately for James Tavernier, because I didn't think he had a bad game, but in these moments, that's where you've got to be sharp. You've got to be committed. You can't actually. I could understand why Rangers fans would be furious, because what you can't do in that situation when Kizaridis is getting the shot away is turn and then wait and be surprised when it comes back off the post. Yeah. Kingsley's already moving forward. He anticipates that. And he got in front of Skov Olsen, who should be there to cover. But Tavernier should have responded better to get himself across to try and get a block in. But he was caught flat-footed and surprised. So, yeah, I can see that James Tavernier, I'm afraid, is going to bow out now at the end of another trophyless season for Rangers, another joyless campaign for the supporters. And I think, certainly, I said a couple of weeks ago, however it works out, this is the time to draw a line in the sand, to move on, and Rangers need to try and move into a fresh chapter with a new captain. I think he'll be synonymous with close but no cigar FC.
In the comments, Rebel says Derek McInnes is the Manager of the Year and the Tan of the Year awards. But with plenty of comments coming in on Danny Rohl as well. Keith John says, I said months ago, Danny Rohl's inexperience would prove crucial in the title race. He's a total novice, outfoxed by the one change from McInnes. David says his signings have been absolutely shocking, Keith. I don't think the Rangers fans will trust them to get the right players in. And John again says to think Rangers could have had Shankland on a free transfer, but they were too snobby. Obviously, Andrew sorry, go on.
Tonight they were beaten by a manager that they should have appointed. And the winning goal was scored by a striker that they should have signed. So these points are absolutely valid.
Yeah. I mean, on Rohl, Andrew Kavanagh was at the game tonight. He was pictured in the stands with Parag Marathi.
Yeah.
We talked about it. I mean, they'll be bitterly disappointed with how that second half went. They had an inkling that they were going to really get into this title race, maybe even win it.
Well, I'm sure they would. They would have went through there tonight thinking if they can come away with 3 points, then it's, as we said last night, absolutely game on. But I have to tell you, and I don't want to keep banging the same drum, but if I'm Andrew Kavanagh and I'm sitting there watching how that game unfolded and the managerial changes that brought about the result and the end result that Rangers finally left with, I'm struggling to justify that in my own head. Literally, Danny Rohl was just outsmarted. He was just outmanoeuvred by a guy who understands Scottish football in particular, but also just has that bit more experience. What was the really interesting stat today? That Hearts, before tonight's game, had already achieved a points total for the season that only 3 had only been achieved by clubs outside the Old Firm 3 times over the last however long. Wow. Derek McInnes 3 times at Aberdeen.
But that's pretty remarkable that it's Derek McInnes every time.
He knows what he's doing.
Aye.
And as you know, we said previously in this season, it does feel as if the stars might just be aligning for him this time.
Yeah.
He's got the support of, you know, an ambitious, wealthy owner and investor in Tony Bloom. He's got the Jamestown analytics to help. He's at a club that looks like it fits him, and it just feels as if his whole career has been building up to this moment. I know that sounds a bit airy-fairy, but here we are with 3 games to go. He's just killed Rangers off tonight, and a win at Motherwell, which isn't going to be easy because we all know what Motherwell are. But a win at Motherwell this weekend, and he'll go six ahead of Celtic before the Old Firm meet on the Sunday. So this could be tied up, and I know everything all looked as if it was all roads leading to the kind of final day dramatic shootout between Celtic and Hearts, and it might still, because this season, who knows what's going to come next. But this actually might be over before Hearts go to Celtic Park. Celtic might have to give them a guard of honour.
So if Rangers were to take something off Celtic at the weekend at Celtic Park, which, look, the way this season's gone, you wouldn't bet against it. You wouldn't bet against something like that happening. And then, so I'm actually losing the permutations here. Hearts would then go into the midweek game, if they win it, 6 points ahead with 6 left to play for.
Yeah.
Basically wrapped up.
Yeah.
Pretty astonishing, pretty remarkable.
They've also got a healthy goal difference, haven't they?
Yep.
So, yeah, but look, I'm giving up. Although I did say last night I thought Hearts would win this game tonight 2-1. Got that bit right. But how are you supposed to predict anything, really? I mean, it's crazy. As I said to you, at half-time, Rangers looked as if they were going to come away for a 3-0 win. They could have had the game finished by half-time.
Yeah. They probably should have, to be fair.
Yeah, and then such a turnaround. Can't really remember Rangers threatening in the second half. And Butland has to make an absolute sensational save below his left-hand post from Spittle again to stop Hearts inflicting even more pain on. It was just one of those 90 minutes. Sky TV must be loving this. Because I don't think in their wildest dreams they expected Scottish football to deliver to the level that it's been delivering this season. There's always been incredible stories and drama and great passion, but you know what's happening this season is just out of this world. It's mind blowing, and it probably, without wishing to burst anybody's bubble, it probably is a sort of once in a lifetime season. And that's why it would be good for Hearts if they can reach out and grab it now, because I don't know if the opportunity will come round again like this one, even though I accept that Tony Bloom's got, you know, a 10-year plan for the club. This season, just everything feels as if the stars have aligned.
Yeah. Well, look, in the comments, Alistair says, Rangers have got no character, no fight, not one iota of quality, too busy helping Hearts players stretch, and then a good laugh.
That was incredible.
That was really remarkable. Aye.
That was incredible, and I know it's a small point, but I'm the sort of guy that makes small points. But I'm glad that somebody else did, because you're going flat out in a top of the table potential title deciding showdown, and you're stopping. You're going out your way to make sure the opposition players okay and his legs don't get cramped. That was staggering to me. Staggering to me.
It was very strange. In the comments as well, let me just go back to it. A lot of people, Keith, saying that Fir Park isn't a guarantee for Hearts. I think they may get beat or draw. Peter says good managers adapt, and Danny Rohl looked absolutely lost. P45 is in the mail. Control Lift says Rohl's win percentage against top six is 42. Remove Falkirk is in the 30s. Shocking. Stephen says Derek McInnes will be the next Rangers manager, even as early as next season. And Jungle Boy says, I think Keith called it weeks ago. Hearts have the 2 good strikers up top, and it's theirs to lose now, unfortunately. I do think that.
I did point that out, that I felt that was going to be crucial over the running. Just look at the way that Lawrence Shankland finishes that chance.
That was a brilliant finish.
And where were the Rangers strikers? I know that eventually they ended the game with 3 of them in the pitch at the one time, but by this point it's like substitute spaghetti from Danny Rohl. There was no shape. There's no. I don't know what he's. But how many times? And that is again a concern. I feel as if I'm having a real pop at Danny Rohl. Maybe I am, but I've seen it on a number of occasions this season where Danny Rohl makes substitutions which make his team worse. And I thought there was one or two obvious substitutions for him to make, and I thought they should have been made a lot earlier than they were. And then it just ends up all in a bit of a mess, doesn't it? With Miovski, Nadiri, Chermiti all on the pitch. Nobody quite sure where they're meant to be. And Rangers lose their shape. They lose any sort of momentum. And I think that I understand it. He's trying to get as many forward players on the pitch as he can. But if you've got no structure, no set formation, no strategy behind it, it's just hit and hope stuff. And that's happened to Rangers on more than one occasion under Danny Rohl. And I think that points to a lack of experience. I think that he gets panicky. And I thought he got panicky tonight. And then the way he spoke after the game, he was blaming it on the players a little bit, although not fully. The players didn't pick Skov Olsen to start that match. The players didn't then wait until 60-odd minutes, whenever it was, to take him off and put on Gassama. And then taking off Raskin and Mikey Moore. I mean, somebody will need to explain that one to me.
The Mikey Moore one was...
That's astonishing.
Yeah, Mikey Moore one was weird.
Diomande looked as if he was running out of steam. I thought he had a good first half. But when Hearts put more men into the middle of the pitch, I thought they were running over the top of Rangers in there. Diomande looked spent. And how Diomande stayed on the park when Raskin came off and why Mikey Moore came off the pitch, I find that staggering. Again, I'm afraid to say it points to one thing. I think that maybe in a couple of years' time, Danny Rohl will make all the right calls in these moments because he'll have built up experience from nights exactly like this and the defeat that they suffered to Motherwell. But right now, in the thick of it, in the here and now of this title battle, I don't think he's cut out for it. I said last night he was about to come up against two absolute sharks in Martin O'Neill and Derek McInnes. Well, Derek McInnes just took a massive big bite of him.
Yeah. David in the comments says Danny Rohl must take the blame. Moore should not have been taken off. Skov Olsen should never have started. His inability to change after Hearts went to a back three is unacceptable. John says, why can Rangers only play one half of a game? Rohl still hasn't fixed that problem. He can't motivate. Chaos says, what if Danny Rohl just isn't a title-winning manager? We clearly turned a corner from how things have been the last few years, but there's massive inconsistency issues. I said on the show the other night, Keith, again, based on nothing, just maybe a little hunch. I think Danny Rohl could be in a bit of bother this summer. I think, given that he wasn't the first choice, I think if there's another candidate there that Kavanagh and Marathi can get and look at and are a bit more excited by, I could see them making a change.
I don't know. I think they've got, or certainly up until tonight, I mean, results change.
Of course.
Football's a results business, to use the old cliche. That result won't have helped them. But it wasn't even the result, Dan. I'm afraid it comes back to they've sat there and look, I'm not wish to generalise here, but if they know enough about football, they can only reach one conclusion: that the man in charge of their team was outsmarted by the man in the other dugout tonight. And that seems like an obvious one, and that would clearly have to be a cause for considerable concern, unless they're just backing Danny Rohl and they think, do you know what, he's a young guy, he'll make mistakes. These are pretty costly mistakes he's made.
Yeah.
Especially when somebody's, whacked 40 million in to try and help him achieve this.
In fairness, there's a wee bit of defence for Danny Rohl. Bengal says, look at the league table when Rohl was in charge, or when Rohl started, would be top. He made mistakes, but he's the right man. And Sean says, Raskin's had one good game in 6, and they are rarely the big games. He's bang average. And I'd just tack on to the end of that. It's players like Raskin that Rohl would have been expecting so much more from tonight. I mean, so much more. He's meant to be he's capable of being the best midfielder in the country. He just didn't turn up.
Well, I would disagree with you. I thought Raskin did an excellent first half, as did a few of them. And I don't think that Raskin was the problem in that second half, as I just said. I thought he was still trying to go about his work, but he was getting a little bit swamped because of the changes that Derek McInnes made. And I think at that point, you're actually looking to the sideline saying, right, well, are you seeing what we're seeing here? What are you going to do to change this? And for me, the change that should have been made, and very early in that second half, because it became very clear in the first few minutes that Hearts had made changes. They were going to approach the second half differently. They were more aggressive. They also became more composed in the ball because they had more men in the middle of the pitch. For me, the obvious change was to get Connor Barron on the pitch in place of Diamande, because you know that he's got the energy to rat about. He'll fill the holes. So yeah, I'm bemused. I'm actually bemused by the thinking behind the substitutions. I could understand Skov Olsen and Gassama coming on for him. I can understand that all day long. I can't understand why Skov Olsen started, and then the Thelo Asgard fascination just has to stop. I don't know what was going through his head when he thought, we're really in trouble here, let's get Thelo Asgard on the pitch.
No. He's never shown it, Thelo Asgard. He's not.
He's a lovely, do you know what? He's a lovely technician. He's got lovely feet. He can do nice things. That is not what's required when you're staring, down the barrel of a gun at Tynecastle in frantic situations like the one Rangers were facing tonight. And I look, seen plenty of Thelo Asgard. I think he's got the potential to be a game changer because of the ability, but too often and more often than not, he's a bit of an empty jersey.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Gianni in the comments, Keith says it's good of Keith to turn up for the title race. And Gianni, right there on point. And it says a lot of comments about Mikey Moore getting taken off. It says a lot that Rangers' best player is an 18-year-old boy.
Well, that I find, but we mentioned this, and it was when, again, very similar circumstances. Remember, Rangers were in a good position. They went away Easter Road, and he left. Pretty sure that he left Mikey Moore out of his starting 11. Had to make changes at half time or in the second half. And when Mikey Moore came on the pitch, we had this conversation. I said he was the actual only one out there that seemed to understand the importance of not dropping points, the sort of serious nature of the situation that Rangers were in on that day. And that I find really worrying from a Rangers perspective. An 18-year-old kid that's not even your player, he's a Spurs player, but he seems to get it more than the guys that were out there, senior pros. So yeah, these are all issues that need to be addressed. Andrew Kavanagh's a man with a lot of thinking to do right now.
Yeah.
Because I could see why he would be seriously disappointed with some of the decisions that have been made around the football club, in terms of the transfer windows, the appointment of the manager, and then the decisions of the manager. I think these are all things that maybe he'll want to sit and have a debrief with his American colleagues about when this season is done and dusted.
No, I completely agree. I had said that we'd hopefully be joined by our distinguished colleagues, Keith, who are at Tynecastle. Time's getting on. Hopefully they'll still check in with us. Hopefully.
The boys will be running about with their hair on fire trying to get quotes for tomorrow's paper and for online later tonight.
They'll be up to their eyes in it. We've got plenty of comments to keep us going in the meantime. Craig says, Rangers lying down to Hearts to make it difficult for Celtic to win the title is ridiculous, to be honest. I agree, Craig.
I tell you what, though, what a contrast. Celtic go through Edinburgh on the Sunday, and the place is Easter Road was like a morgue, wasn't it? The game lacked tempo. It was a bit of a chore, the whole game, but Celtic managed to get there, get the result that required. Again, and this is why it's not quite as cut and dried as I think it probably is, because I did say a couple of games before the split, if Celtic and or Rangers could find a striker who could contribute 6 or 7 goals between now and the end of the season, then there might be life in this yet for both of them. Now, who's to say that Kelechi Iheanacho's not going to prove to be that guy? It does seem unlikely. It seems like a long shot, but you write nothing off this season. And here's Pouch.
There we go. We've just been joined by Ross Poucher. Pouch, Tynecastle. We've talked a lot about Rangers, but for Hearts, huge. I don't even have the words. A massive win.
Yeah, that was mega, and it felt like it here too. That's as loud as this place has been for a long, long time. That was
impressive. Ever.
It's up there. I think the only thing you could really compare it to was when they finished second in 20 years ago now, 2005, 2006. They beat Aberdeen to get their Champions League place. But this, this could go one better. That was quite second half. First half, just speaking to Derek McInnes there, he thought Hearts got kind of caught up in the game a bit, and I think that was true. You see the nerves came in, frustration was starting to come in. They needed half time, but the second half they responded, and it was just, I mean, that late chance at the end, I think it was I can't remember who it was in stoppage time, but they headed it right. I've never heard a goal kick celebrated like that. Craig Halkett's down on the deck, double fist pumping. That was, I think the fans really roared them and willed them onto that. That was massive.
There were throw-ins that were getting celebrations like goals, Pilch, at that point in the last 5-10 minutes. By the way, where's Scott McDermott and Andy Newport?
They are doing a pile of work through in the media room, and I've just nipped out. Bojan Miovski was just in, had a long chat with Danny Rohl, and Derek McInnes has just been in. So they are here, they are working, but I've taken one for the team.
Pilch, we've talked, as I say, about Rangers, talked about Derek McInnes changing the game. The first half, Hearts, as you say, kind of get lost in it a wee bit.
Pilch summed it up, Dan. I thought it was the enormity of the occasion. I thought after the first 15 minutes, the stadium started to quieten down. You could almost feel the nerves coming through the telly, and I felt it affected the players. They were working hard, but there was no quality or accuracy to their passing. They were giving the ball away frequently. Rangers were then finding it really easy to get round them, pass round them. And I just felt they looked as if the whole nervousness of the occasion had really gotten to them. I tell you what, that must have been the team talk, the halftime team talk of Derek McInnes' career, because they just come out. They were a different group of players.
And see as well, Pilch, you sent in a couple of clips that went up on Record Sport Online of the atmosphere. See anyone watching that? Not just down south, around Europe. It was incredible, the atmosphere. Absolutely incredible. I'd go as far as saying I think Hearts have got one hand on the trophy. I really do. I think that was huge for them tonight, even psychologically as well.
I think so. And Derek was just saying there, he was very conscious that they do have to go to Motherwell on Saturday night. Get a result there, they can sit back and watch what happens the next day. I thought if Hearts won their first two games after the split, they'd be very hard to stop winning the league. I wouldn't say one hand on the trophy. I think they're in such a strong position now, though. I think if they can get the job done on Saturday, I maybe say it then. So ask me again on the Sunday night.
How do you? I mean, in the comments, Rebel says Hearts have the momentum, but Martin O'Neill's more streetwise than Rohl. Nothing's decided yet. Hearts win at Motherwell, then it will be theirs, I reckon. How do you see that?
I think that's fair. I think that Hearts are now one game away.
Wow.
I think if they couldn't go to Motherwell on Saturday night and come away with 3 points, I think that's game over for Celtic as well. Might not be, but I've got a sneaky that Rangers might take something away from Celtic Park, and that would then be position A for Hearts. And you know what? They absolutely deserve it, because they have been the best team in the country consistently, week in, week out, with the best performing players. They haven't, appointed managers who have put them into reverse. I'm talking obviously Russell Martin and Wilfried Nancy. Hearts have just done more things right than any of the others, and they deserve to be in this position.
I can't disagree. And Pilch, I know you'll be up to your eyes with work as well. Before we let you go, though, from a Hearts point of view, I know you're obviously strictly impartial, completely professional, but from Hearts, what does it mean to the Hearts fans to be in this position? So unexpected. I mean, once in a lifetime. Again, they'll be hoping not, but as you can see, I'm struggling to articulate what it must mean to the Hearts fans.
I think you saw that at the end. Just the roar that went up was incredible. But don't forget, Hearts fans are a certain age. They've been in this position before, and it's 40 years ago. I think 40 years ago this week.
Yeah,
and it ended horribly. So there's always going to be that nagging doubt. But there's just a feeling about the place now. I think, especially after tonight, because Keith said there, the momentum was with Hearts. You felt that shift in the second half. Danny Rohl said it as well. Derek McInnes just said it. It was just, as soon as the equaliser went in, it got the crowd back on side. They didn't turn against them, which has happened before here in seasons gone past it. They were sticking with them as much as you could, but there's only so much you can do that when you see what you're seeing in the first half. The goal came at a perfect time, and after that, you just felt, well, this is coming. And Blair Spittle was so close to a third. He made a big difference. He came on for Chesnikov. Hearts got a bit more of the ball. He was picking up good positions, and they looked far more comfortable. And yeah, it was just, he just maybe didn't quite get his team selection right the first half, but he changed at half time. I think the players settled down a bit. There was he did kind of touch on his team talk. Claudio Braga did as well, but you'll read more about that on Record Sport this week. But Hearts, again, they just harnessed something and got it done. So I think for the fans it's huge, but there's always going to be that little doubt until it's done. It's not done. So another big step forward. As Keith said, I think one more massive one to take, and I think they'd be just about there.
Pilch, who get man of the match?
I gave it to Shankland just for that is a monster moment. He turns up and he, as you said, I just thumped that in. I think he gave it everything, and just the reaction to it, you see him afterwards. He's pointing to his head, he's geeing everybody up. It was just a big captain's moment. Like first half, none of the Hearts players really did themselves justice, but their big players stepped up after the break, and him no more. So I think that just typified how key he is to this team. You know, he's been out for 6 weeks and they just about coped with it, but now he's back. He's proven he can be the difference, and I think he might be over the next couple of games as well.
Do you know what, Pilch? I agree with you. I think that Blair Spittle's pretty unlucky because the contribution he made to changing that match thought was massive.
Yep. We're talking about it as well from Spittle, from a guy who's not really played or started a lot this season. That's he was a hero at Easter Road last week.
Easter Road too.
Yeah, he's helped change it this week. So it shows this Hearts squad. It's not just a Hearts team. I think that's a big difference. This is a Hearts squad that's they're all coming in and contributing. Like Saber Kajota came on last week, set up 2 goals, doesn't get off the bench this week. So they've got depth. Yeah,
and I felt though that you're right about Shankland, and I thought that even towards the end of the game, in injury time, when it was getting a little bit hairy, you know, he just got himself in front of people, won fouls, nudged the ball on, just try to take as much time and as much sting out of the situation as he could. And I thought that just about shaded it. I thought his contribution was worthy of man of the match, with Blair Spittle getting an honourable mention.
And Mark as well. Kingsley, I thought was great, Pilch. I thought he was really good. Mark saying that in the comments.
Yeah. First half, I think he struggled like the rest of them. I know McInnes just said that as well, but second half, I finished it looks easy, but really isn't. It's coming at you quick off the post. He does really well to control it and just guide it in. He's, in terms of the players' Hearts have signed since they they went down and come out of administration, he's been probably one of the best. Robbie Nielsen brought him in, I think about 6 years ago now. Player who'd kind of lost his way down south, bad injuries, on a free transfer, and you look at the kind of service he's done and the big moments he's come up with. He's been an excellent servant, and he's one that maybe deserves that moment, and we'll see what more comes this season. But it's, you know, guys like him. It's not just the Jamestown guys that have come in and from kind of obscure leagues and, you know, picking diamonds out the rough that other people overlooking. It's guys like him, guys like Craig Halkett have been here a long time and they get it, and it's that blend that the Hearts seem to have just got absolutely bang on this year.
Yeah. Pilch, we'll let you get back to work, but thanks so much for joining us on Hotline Live.
Cheers, boys.
All the best.
See you, Pilch.
And a substitution, Keith, because we talked about Hearts with Pilch. Scott McDermott is now here for us to talk about Rangers.
I'm sorry, wee man. I thought you were going to be a no-show.
I always try and do my bit, Jacko. Heard you frantically getting that copy sent in just for you.
What did you make of that, Scott?
From a Rangers point of view, I think the overriding feeling, Daniel, for Rangers fans will be predictable. Basically, when it gets to the business end of the season, Rangers, you know, different players, different managers, but this club certainly in the last 4 to 5 years, when it gets to the real crunch time, you know, when the going gets tough, they fall away, and that was probably encapsulated in the performance today. When you think about how dominant Rangers were in the first half, you know, they probably should have led with more than a goal. Thought they controlled the game, looked fairly comfortable. And the contrast, and we've said this for the last 3 games now, Falkirk, Motherwell and Hearts, the contrast between the first half performance and the second half performance, sometimes it flips, it's not always the same one, but they produce 45-minute performances, and as soon as they feel soon as these players feel that the game's getting away from them, they don't react positively. They will, and that's what happened in the second half. And obviously, Hearts won and deserve their victory. Obviously, the change at half time. Derek McInnes, he played it down in the press conference afterwards. Putting Blair Spittle on for Chesnikov, but it did have a big impact in the game. It allowed Hearts to get a stronger foothold in it, and Rangers just didn't react.
Danny Rohl didn't react, Scott.
He didn't, Jack, and I've heard a few people saying that in the press room. And look, you're right. Of course, a manager has to react to stuff in game and has to change things. And you could see pretty early on in that second half, it was getting away from Rangers, and Hearts were taking control. But honestly, at what point do you question players and their attitudes and their mentality? I mean, when you're a player on the pitch, you need to feel the game's getting away from you. You need to react positively yourself. And these players, honestly, I'll say it again, as soon as they go and get stuff, they don't want to know about it. And of course, Danny Rohl will take a big chunk of the blame, but he'll come away from this. And I think he'll have learned a lot about a few of these players today. He didn't want to admit it at the press conference afterwards when he was quizzed on mentality again. But I think there's one or two in that dressing room he'll have looked at in the second half today and thought, they're not going to do going forward.
Scott, look, you say he'll have learned a lot about his players. What had he learned about Skov Olsen that made him think that was a good idea to play him from the start and then leave him in the pitch for the length of time that he did?
I know. I mean, it was a massive call getting into the game. I think I'd say to Daniel or Andy earlier in the week, I thought Danny Rohl had to do something a bit different with the team selection today, because Gassama and Asgard and people like that just haven't been doing it. I thought to give Rangers the edge, they had to do something a bit different. But I never thought for a minute Skov Olsen would start the game. I thought he might even turn to somebody like Antman, who hasn't played a lot of football either, but might just give them something. When we seen Skov Olsen's name on the team sheet, we were surprised. Yet again, plays on the periphery. It's powder puff in final third. Real lack of end product. He's a guy that you know pretty much isn't going to be there next season, which made his selection even more baffling. Yeah. And I think the worry for the Rangers fans, Jack, will be that, to me, told you that Danny Rohl was clutching at straws a wee bit, just looking for something. And even turning to a guy like that, who just hasn't turned up for the minute he's arrived. But clearly Danny Rohl knew getting into the game he had to try something different. And it was a gamble playing Skov Olsen, obviously it didn't pay off. I go back to I was saying to the boys, the first couple of minutes of the game, Rangers had a breakaway and it was a counter-attack, and I think it might have been Sharmiti who broke, and it was a real chance for Rangers to put a marker down, and the pass for Sharmiti to Skov Olsen was slack, it was overhit. Skov Olsen meanders onto the ball, then plays a really loose, tries to caress a pass into the middle of the pitch. The move just broke down, and you're thinking, where's the intensity there? I mean, they must have worked on that so often to try to break on Hearts. And that's why he's in the team. That's why he was signed in January and was this high profile, former £12 million man. And honestly, I mean, the lack of intensity he plays at is just... And that was the fear when the team sheets came out. When me and Andy were discussing it, we thought, if there's one game that you thought wasn't suited to Skov Olsen, it's away at Tynecastle, tight pitch, crowd on top of them, under pressure, no getting a minute on the ball. And look, he did okay in the first half. There was certain points in the first half where I thought he kind of kept the ball for them, and he was calm in possession, and obviously Rangers were dominant at that point. But like the rest of them in the second half, just disappeared, and then inevitably got the hook.
He was guilty, Scott, of sleeping at Kingsley's equaliser as well.
Of course he was.
He's got to be switched on. So is Tavernier. And then,
Jack, even his body shape for that goal, it's just loose. It's slack. You're right. He's not switched on at all. It was shoddy, really, at the back post.
Then, Scott, because I have been making my point, because I said it last night that I felt Danny Rohl's experience was going to be an issue in this run-in for Rangers. and that his lack of experience would ultimately cost him, because I feel in big games, some of the decisions he makes make the team worse. And I felt the substitutions, it was, as I said, I used a phrase earlier, substitute spaghetti in that second half. But you don't know what is it he's trying to achieve. Yes, throw all my goal scorers on it. But at that point, you lose so much shape that you lose all momentum. They never looked like getting back into that game. And I'm struggling to think of one substitution that he made that made Rangers better. I think taking Skov Olsen off and replacing him with Gassama, obviously. But for me, what they needed was Connor Barron on that pitch, in the middle of the pitch, when Hearts started to kind of get on top of the midfield. I couldn't understand. I would have, my substitution would have been Connor Barron for Diomande, who was starting to look a bit spent. And then what he was thinking about taking Raskin and Mikey Moore off at the same time, I don't know. I've got no idea about that.
But it just felt, might be, you've probably got a better picture, believe it or not, just watching it. In the second half, obviously, you're working and your head's down. But to me, it just felt like, as you say, it was just throwing subs on for the sake of it. It was just throwing stuff at a wall, hoping something was going to stick. And it's interesting, you say about Barron, Andy said the same thing. When the game started getting away from them, it did feel like it needed a Barron for a Diomande or even a Mikey Moore, who was giving a possession away regularly in the second half as well, and wasn't having the impact that you would hope him to have. So I think you're right, Barron might have been a better sub, but it just got a bit desperate, I thought, in the second half. When the crowd got on top of Rangers, and Hearts get control of the game, it just felt like he looked at his bench and thought, right, I've got attacking players here, let's just throw a few on and hopefully we can get back in the game. And as you say, they never really, I know Asgard hit the bar with a header, but they never really looked like getting that goal.
Just before we let you get up the road, Scott, Peter asked in the comments, ask Scott if he really believes Rohl is the man to deliver Rangers a title. I've no reason to believe he would.
Well, he's just told us the press conference there, and he's been pretty honest in saying, this season it just hasn't been good enough. They've not been good enough to be champions. They've fallen short. But in terms of next season, Daniel, I think the way Rangers are capitulating in these post-split fixtures puts Danny Rohl under more pressure than he might have been. I think if Rangers had showed up well post-split and lost the league narrowly, they fought to the last day and lost out, of course punters wouldn't be happy and questions would be asked. But given the context of the season, I've said to you before, I think he would have then started next season with real backing and a belief there that they could go and do it. I think he's in serious danger now of putting himself under major pressure at the start of next season because of how this season is threatening to end. As I said right at the top, to go into, he said in the past it's not about the players' mentality, and that's not an issue at Rangers anymore. But if you get to a point in the season, 5 games to go, get into a split against your rivals, and you go and lose the first 2 games, potentially lose the first 3 games if they get beat off Celtic next week. If that isn't a mentality issue, I don't know what is. I mean, that is the definition of a weak mentality, is that when it gets to crunch time, post-split against your rivals, when you need to show you've got the minerals to go and win a title, they've failed to do it. So I think if it keeps going like this in the next few games, the season really finishes with a whimper and Rangers end up third, I think Danny Rohl puts there'll be a lot more pressure on him at the start of next season than there might have been.
The thing is, Scott, finally, Pete's a Hibs fan, says, I really fear Rangers will turn up on Sunday and hand Hearts the title. It would be just like Rangers to get a win when the pressure's off them. Can you see that at all?
Well, that would typify Rangers, I think, in the last few years. That's the kind of thing that they do. They might after knocking themselves out of the title race by losing to Motherwell and Hearts. Would it really surprise you if they go to Celtic Park and win and it's all too late? I don't think it would. There's probably every chance they could go there and win. And obviously, if you're a Hearts fan, that's what you're praying for.
Scott, absolute pleasure having you in the hotline as always. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll let you get up the road.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Jacko.
Safe for me, man.
Cheers, Scott.
Thank you. Cheers, pal.
Safe travels. Scott, not holding back there, Keith. Definitely not.
That was good, wasn't it?
Aye, really good.
That's good analysis.
Good from both of them, to be fair. Pilch as well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's I feel like it's the weekend. I was going to ask for your predictions there, but of course it's Monday night, so we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow, when I'm sure tonight's game will come up again. But for tonight, I think that brings us to the end of the show. Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Daniel. Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much to Ross Pilcher, Scott McDermott, and all the comments as well. They've been fantastic. And as I say, hope you can join us tomorrow. Thanks for watching.